Good day, everyone, friends and fellow patriots, brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome, one and all. Okay, this one should not be very long, and it's really not related to anything that I've been working on here recently. This is in response to a conversation I had with an individual some time ago when the subject came up of what type of law did we have when our country was first established. And I said colonial law, and he called me an idiot and said I was crazy. So I kind of decided that the time had come for me to go into Chat GPT and use it to get a response and then email that response to him. But I thought I would share it with you all as well. So give me just a second and I'll get it up here. Okay, so I put in, there was a time in this country when the law was known as colonial law. Can you research it and let me know when that time was and what those laws were? And this was the response it gave. Search 5 sites. The term colonial law refers to the legal frameworks established in the American colonies between the early 17th century and the mid 18th century, before the colonies declared independence in 1776. This period was marked by adaptation of English common law to the unique circumstances of life in the colonies. Time period: colonial law was prominent from around 1607, the establishment of Jamestown, Virginia, to the American Revolution in 1776. Each colony developed its own legal system, influenced by English law, but it was tailored to local needs and societal structures. Key characteristics of colonial law: number one, the influence of English common law. The colonists brought with them the principles of English common law, which governed contracts, property disputes, and criminal offenses. However, this system evolved to address the realities of colonial life, such as land acquisition, labor systems, and relations with indigenous peoples. Number two, colonial charters. Each colony operated under a charter granted by the English crown, which defined its government structure and legal powers. These charters often required that colonial laws not contradict English law. Local adaptation. Number three, laws varied widely among the colonies to accommodate differing, differing economic activities, such as agriculture and trade, religious practices, and social structures. For example, Massachusetts incorporated Puritan religious principles into its laws, while southern colonies, like Virginia, emphasized laws related to ownership, land ownership, and slavery. Number four, judicial practices. Early on, there were few trained lawyers or judges, and disputes were often resolved in informal settings like churches or local councils. Over time, colonial legal systems became more sophisticated, with courts handling an increasing volume of cases. Number five, major legal concerns: property rights and land use, contracts and mercantile law, particularly in port cities, the regulation of labor, including indentured servitude and slavery, disputes over colonial governance, and resistance to English rule as tensions with Britain increased. Colonial law laid the foundation for the American legal system, influencing the development of state and federal laws after independence. Many elements of this legal tradition are still reflected in United States common law today. If you'd like more details or specifics, let him know. But then I asked, what were the major differences between colonial law and English common law? Here we go. The differences between colonial law in the American colonies and English common law reflected the unique circumstances of the colonies and their adaptation of English traditions to fit their social, economic, and political realities. Major differences: 1. Local adaptation and flexibility. Colonial law adapted to the practical needs of the colonies with variations based on geography, religion, and local economies. For example, Puritan colonies like Massachusetts integrated strict moral codes based on religious principles, while Virginia's laws were influenced by plantation-based economies and the institution of slavery. English common law, rooted in established precedents and royal edicts, it was more uniform across England. English law relied heavily on the centralized authority of Parliament and the monarchy. Number two, authority of customary practices. Colonial law often relied on informal and customary practices, especially in early settlements where trained legal professions were scarce. Courts were often convened by local leaders or councils, and decisions could reflect communal values more than strict legal precedent. English common law, based on a formal system of precedents established by court rulings and detailed records with professional judges and legal advocates interpreting statutes. Number three, legislative autonomy. Colonial law. Each colony had its own legislature or assembly that enacted laws to suit local needs, though these laws were subject to the approval by the English crown. The lack of strong centralized colony authority meant that laws varied significantly between colonies. English common law, rooted in centralized legal traditions with Parliament as a supreme legislative body. Religious influence. Number four, colonial law. In colonies like Massachusetts, religious doctrine heavily influenced laws such as the enforcement of Sabbath observance and restrictions on behavior deemed immoral. English common law, while informed by Christian principles, it was not overtly governed by religious doctrine due to England's separation of secular and ecclesiastical courts. Number five, slavery and labor laws. Colonial law develops distinct laws regarding indentured servitude and slavery, reflecting the labor needs of the colonies. For example, the Barbados Slave Code influenced legal frameworks for enslaved people in the southern colonies. English common law, while it included labor laws, England did not have the same codified legal framework for slavery that emerged in the colonies. Number six, land ownership and property rights. Colonial law emphasized land distribution and ownership, as land acquisition was central to colonial expansions. Laws were created to encourage settlement and manage disputes over indigenous lands. English common laws focused on established property rights in a densely populated society with less emphasis on land distribution. Now, the summary. Colonial law diverged from English common law due to the colonies' need to address unique challenges such as scarce resources, religious diversity, and a vast geographic space. These differences created a legal system more flexible and localized, laying the groundwork for the American legal tradition that emerged after independence. And it was a lot of it is still in use in what we call common law today. And in a sense, I guess you could consider a colonial law common law, but as they've shown here, that there was a lot of big differences in the English common law and the colonial law of that time. So again, this was just to be able to have a screenshot of or copy and paste into an email so I can send it to the friend. I had the conversation with who called me crazy and an idiot for thinking we ever had such a thing called colonial law. And again, I thank all of you for spending some of your precious time, taking some of your precious time out of your day to watch this. And again, know that each and every one of you are in my prayers, and I desperately want each and every one of you to keep me in your prayers until at least December 11th, when I can verify whether or not the lung cancer is coming back. Again, I'm almost positive that it's not coming back, but until I can actually verify it, I can't say one way or the other. So, and as always, please follow, like, and share this, especially with friends and family in other countries. Um, Most of them will probably be surprised to find this out too, because virtually no one talks about what kind of law we had when our country was first established here. God bless each and every one of you, and I hope you have an awesome, amazingly awesome rest of your day. Thank you again for spending some of your precious time with me.